I'm using this as a little bit of almost a trailer or a recap of what's to come in this episode. And I always share from the heart and I make it up as I go along. But in this episode, I'm opening up a little bit more. Why? Not because I'm so interesting, but because I want people to understand it's okay to think differently than you used to. It's okay to be open into new things. It's okay to feel some kind of growing pains as we leave the old us behind and venture into that new next level of us. So I'm going to talk about my transformation, how I've looked at life differently over the last 2-3 years, or dare I say, a spiritual awakening. Wearing tops like this, bringing rattles like this back from Peru, trust me, it wasn't me. I'm going to talk about how, I see nature now differently than I did a few years ago. I listen to different types of music where the words talk deep to my soul. I watch near-death experience videos to inspire me about not just what's next, but how to have a different perspective in life. So I guess you could say my eyes of how I see the world have softened. I've become more of a softie in a positive way. So I'm going to get on with the episode. What I want to say as well is I talk a little bit about plant medicines in Peru and plant medicines in general. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. This is just my personal experience. I'm not promoting anything with anybody else. It's a very serious topic to look at yourself and obviously obey the local laws wherever you live. So look into it yourself. But I had a near-death experience in Peru where I wasn't sure if I was coming back. But the growth and the change, the healing, the self-development was staggering. So I'll get on with the episode. Just wanted to kind of put down a little bit what it's about. And thank you for everybody's support. I just want to say as well, all of the likes and comments that you share on YouTube for me are so important. I'm understanding now that YouTube will promote and push you to new audiences only if you're getting some engagement from your subscribers and people that watch your videos. So every like and comment I super appreciate from the heart, and it will help me hopefully reach bigger audiences who might just need to listen to my message on any given day. Thanks. On with the episode. If you would have said to me 3 years ago, I'd be talking about spirituality on a video and wearing a top like this, I'd have laughed you out the room. But something's happened to me gradually over the last 3 years, and my life has changed for the better, and I want to share it with you. This is Life with Paul M. Welcome back. And the reason I want to share this is because I ain't no spiritual guru. I'm a very normal type of person. And it's not that my story is so interesting, but it might just help plant a few seeds for yourself. It might resonate with people out there, or it might just help reassure you that you're on the right path and you're not going crazy. Because since my way of thought process has changed over the last 3 years, my life's completely changed. If you could ask anybody that knew me 3 years ago to now, I'm so much calmer. I've got a lot more inner peace. I don't judge as much. I think more than I react before I react. And the whole world just seems a much lovelier place. So for me, I'm really happy with where I'm at. But what was life with me? What was life for me before spirituality journey started? And I've still got to get used to me even using these words. But for me, 3 years ago, life was like it was for most people out there, frenetic, 100 miles an hour, putting way too much energy chasing the material things, which ultimately give us little high points. But we spend most of our life chasing these things for these short moments of so-called happiness before we move on to the next. What about the rest of life that we're living it day in, day out? Where does that happiness come from? So for me, I was a workaholic, had a fitness brand, which I was obsessed and in love with, a company called Pulse Roll. It was part of me. If you cut me in half, you'd see the blood of the company come out. But I was going through anxiety. I hadn't been diagnosed with ADHD at the time. I tried a bit of antidepressants. Life was stressful, not much different than many people out there. But my dad had got terminal cancer. My dad then passed away. Business was struggling with challenges. I went through a painful divorce that I didn't want. Had to move house, that was all coming, and co-parenting with a little kid, my beautiful Estella, my world. So life was all over the show. And funnily enough, it was actually my ex-wife that helped put me on this journey. You know, through some of her decision making over the years, it's caused me a lot of pain. But it was her that actually introduced me one day through, somebody must have said to her, maybe Paul should try this wellness place that I've heard of. It's a different way of doing things. So I went to this place and I started trying something called a sound bath. I didn't even know what a sound bath was. Some of you will, some of you won't. And that led me on this journey of things like shamanic drumming, breath work, plant medicines. Took me to Peru this summer, where, as crazy as it sounds, I had a spiritual near-death experience and I was pleading with God to let me come back for my daughter. It was insane. And it even went up to a couple of days ago when I did a deep guided mushroom ceremony, and I felt like I was a snake shedding that last part of my skin, growing into that new self of me. It sounds insane, doesn't it? But your mind has so much chatter going on. And when you talk about ego death and stuff with things like ayahuasca, it completely strips you down and puts you more at peace. And what I will say about plant medicines is, I'm no doctor, I'm no professional, and plant medicines are something to take extremely, extremely seriously. So do your research and tread very carefully with this. But what I can say from my personal experience, these plant medicines have really been a huge tool to get me to where I am today. So my ex-wife introduced me to this place, which started me up on that path of different way of thinking. But she also found an online a babysitter, a beautiful soul, who happened to be our babysitter, and she told me about this centre called the Lighthouse, with my good friend Jake. He runs, and again, it's a different way of thinking in this wellness centre, that they do all different types of things, but ultimately, it's a place where really good people and good souls come together. So you can meet people that you've got things in common with. You can have a laugh about certain topics. Nobody's judging. Everyone leaves their ego and their shoes at the door. So yeah, my ex-wife, as well as giving me my beautiful daughter Estella, which we helped create together, also indirectly brought me to this spiritual place. So I'll always be eternally thankful for that. I think there's somebody at the door. We'll have to come back in a second. Sorry about that. But then something else started to happen as well, other things. And, you know, we think about life as has so many coincidences. And I still believe in coincidences can happen. But I mainly believe that they are messages, opportunities. We're being guided by a higher power, by our angels, whoever you want to call it. People might call it God, the divine, the source. It doesn't matter what you call it, whatever your belief system is. And the beautiful thing with belief and faith is nobody can ever prove you wrong. You might not be able to prove people right either, but it's what works for you, and it's not judging others. So last summer I went to America in the middle of restructuring my business, and I drove that very long road, Route 66, which cuts through most of America. It's more than 2,000 miles. And I'll try and find the photo or the video. And I'm driving on this road. It's like something that you've seen on the movies, them roads where you can just see as long as the eye can see. So I parked the car up, and I've just got out and I've lied down on the road, because I knew that if there was a car in any direction, it'd be about 20 minutes away, because the road was so long. And I'm lying there, and for one of the first times in my adult life, I just breathed. I was just relaxed. I was just present. Well, guess where I am? Literally on the deck. I don't recommend anyone to do this. And don't try this at home, kids. But I'm lying on the road, because you can see as far as the eye can see. There's nobody here. I'll have a little kip for a bit. What do you think? Oh. Some press-ups, sit-ups, star jumps, meditate, pray, sing, laugh, cry. Look at this. Oh, right, come Come on. This trip that should have taken me about 4 or 5 hours today is going to take me about 10 hours because I just keep stopping off. And on this journey of Route 66, I actually met a guy called Angel who was mainly responsible for getting this magnificent road back on the map. But it was more of a journey of just slowing down and meeting people and going to these sleepy towns where time stood still for 50, 60 years, where the material nonsense that has importance, but is nonsense as well that we chase in the West, it just melted away. But this kind of started also in Thailand 15, 20 years ago, when you meet people from different ways of life that have nowhere near what we have, yet are infinitely happier normally because they've worked it out. You know, I read a book a little while ago called The Inside Out, and it talks about if you sort the inside out, the rest will fall into place. Sorry. And, you know, I read somewhere that 15% of millionaires struggle with depression, but surely money solves everything for us, doesn't it? It doesn't. It will for a short period of time, but if we don't sort within with purpose and love and gratitude, you can put as many fancy plasters on as you want. It's not going to keep you happy in the long run. And for me, gratitude has become a huge part of my spiritual journey as well. Being thankful in the morning, being thankful at night, being thankful for the tiniest little things that come our way that we've got that many people don't appreciate because we're all a million miles an hour, not got time for anything. I also started watching things like near-death experiences on YouTube. I mean, who wants to watch something about people dying and then surviving? But you know, it's so uplifting. Why? Because it shows people that have died in a car accident on the operating table for 4, 5, 6 minutes. And two things I take from this is it shows their journey when they go to heaven, to the spirit world, and that it's a beautiful place. And I believe that with heaven, the spirit world, it's like a room in the next, a room in the house, but you can't open the door. They're always there. And then eventually we go into there and everybody's like, what's the fuss about? We were all going to meet up anyway. But it also talks about how people have perspective and gratitude once they get a second chance on life. It could be somebody that's survived cancer or a major illness or injury. They often get through that and they're like, I ain't worried about the small stuff anymore. I'm getting that happiness with gratitude and perspective on life and worry about the rest. So why do we need to go through these life-changing moments before the penny drops? I'm thinking, you know, I hit 50 the other day. I don't know how I got to 50. And I thank my guardian angels for that because I've had the hands busy looking after me. But I thought, why do we have to wait till we're 70 or 80 or 90 before the penny drops? My dad was in his 80s. He was always whistling and singing and thankful and full of energy. Imagine if we can work that out while we're still at a younger age. What difference we can make on our own lives and also on other people's lives. And then when I went to Peru this summer, you know, and you're visiting places like Machu Picchu and you're taking in that energy and history, but just the way that people over there, they think about life differently. And then I'm in the Amazon rainforest and I'm on the Amazon River, which I've dreamt of visiting all my life. And I'm doing these plant medicines of ayahuasca and the pain that you can go through on these type of things, and I did go through, but the growth, dealing with trauma, stuff that we didn't even know that we were carrying for so many years. Our subconsciousness remembers so much, and most of it is nonsense. It doesn't serve us. But you've got a chance to get rid of all of that. And then the clarity, the peace of mind, and the self-growth, and the development that you get through the other side changes lives. And I'm not saying that's for everybody. So my way of thinking now, just everything has changed. And it can be difficult because people that you've known for many years, they might not be into this type of stuff. And there's no right or wrong. And they might feel threatened by it. They might think you're weird. They might also subconsciously be sad because they're losing that connection that you had together as friends. Yes, they should encourage you, like we should all encourage our close people, whether they got different beliefs or different hobbies and things, change of life. But it's difficult for friends, but you've got to be strong enough to not worry about what the outside's going to think. And it comes down to being centered and balanced and being comfortable with yourself, that you're doing the right thing. And as long as you're not harming anybody and being offensive and hurting people, it doesn't matter what people think, because there'll be many good people in the world that you'll start attracting then, because you'll be on a similar wavelength and frequency. And you build your community that way through social media, through going to events. Talking of frequency, what does all that mean? Well, we only know what we know as humans, yet there's things like infrared, there's ultraviolet that our eyes can't see, there's dogs that have got different senses to us. They can hear dog whistles that we can't. Although my daughter Estella thinks she can hear the dog whistle. You've got animals, you've got birds that migrate to the other side of the world because they sense that nature, the seasons are changing. You've got sharks that can sense, blood miles and miles away. So just because we as humans can't see or feel or have proof of something, it doesn't mean it's not real. And for me, that's a big point of the judging thing or non-judging thing going on. And then you've got the mind that's always talking, which I've learned recently is the ego. And ego isn't just about how great I am, look at me, look at you, blah, blah, blah. It is that as well. But the ego mind is the mind that talks to you, that tells you not to do that. You can't be bothered. You're not motivated. You feel anxious. You're lethargic. You don't feel good about yourself. You don't interact socially with people. It's that nagging little voice. And there's a great book called The Chimp Paradox that touches on that. But as I've got to learn through this ego death of silencing that voice, it's almost like turning the radio down. And I've actually named my ego Ernie. And Ernie now, I talk to Ernie and say, Ernie, thanks but no thanks, I've got this. I know you're trying to help me, but you're not helping me. You might have helped me 3,000 years ago when you gave me the instinct to run from the dinosaur, or you're telling me not to put my hand in the fire. They're great, but a lot of the stuff you're helping with, you're not helping. So rather than having an internal argument, is thank, but just let them know their place. Sounds crazy, but you'll have a day today that could be a really difficult day or a really brilliant day. And then the next day, your life's the same. You've got the same job, the same money, the same health, the same friends, the same everything. But your day could be completely different. You can go from a brilliant day to a really difficult day in the blink of an eye. And it's frustrating. Does anybody else ever get that? I do. And I think a lot of it is that part of the mind that's not helping us. So how do we shut it up? We shut it up through gratitude, through being active, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's, being more physically active. Things like breath work. I'll do maybe 1 minute of that a day. That's it, 2 minutes. Cold water. I put cold water at the back of my neck every morning with a shower head just to get me going. It can be used in journals, in books, things that you're thankful for today, things that you're proud of yourself today. The outside world, society, would rather us talk about what we're not good at and when we're facing difficult moments. The outside world doesn't seem to want to hear when we're doing well. Well, again, they're not the right people, because you'll find the right people as supporters. But even if you just mention it to yourself in a journal, when you're having a bad day, bad moment, you can look through your book and think, look at all the little things that I've achieved and all the little things that I'm thankful for. So for me, this spiritual journey, it's been about slowing down, a different way of thinking, and connecting with my soul. What is that about? But I truly, at times, have connected with my soul, and your soul is there to guide you. I remember when my mum passed away, and it broke my heart into a million pieces when my mum passed away, and then my dad. And it was so difficult. But again, over the years, in particular the last 3 years, I've learned to deal with that and take that love and that pain and make it into a strength. Because that love is so strong. Imagine if you make it into a strength rather than pain. It's a big flip of the switch. it goes back into also stepping into your fears. And I've done videos on that. Is make our fears our strength. So for me, everything's just been a different way of living. Does this resonate with anybody out there? I don't know. I've got the doorbell again. What is going on? 1 minute, I'll be back. Busy day. And other things as well is, a few years ago, once I started becoming a bit more open, I was chatting to a guy in the gym. I'd never seen him before in a few years of going, and I never saw him afterwards. And we got chatting about a spiritual church. I thought, I'll try anything that's positive. I thought it'd be like gospel singing. So I went to a spiritual church that was literally 5 minutes from where I lived. I must have driven past there hundreds of times and never noticed it. And it was mediums that stand up, and many people are skeptical about that, and I was, in between. Cut a long story short, I saw how they connected with other people. And what they do is to build up the proof is they won't just say, I've got a man here who loves you, he's tall, built like this, and he's saying, keep going. It's like, I've got somebody here at the minute. Did you lose, was it an uncle or grandpa called Jimmy? Yeah, I lost my Uncle Jimmy. And was he quite stocky? Yeah, but many people can be that. But did he have a tattoo on his arm that was his army regiment, whatever it could well be? Yeah, that's him. And did he live at a house that had a green door? I think I can see number 42, was it that? Yeah. And have you got a photo of him in your pocket? Yeah. That's the kind of proof you get that blows your mind. And once you built the proof up, the spirit will come through and give you a bit of a message to help guide you or reassure you about things and to help you relax about life. So when I got a connection with my dad, I think it was the eighth time of going, he's come through, and I used to laugh and joke with him. I said, Dad, you're such a good soul. You are a real life angel that's come back here to help people. And he's like, forget it. When you're gone, you're gone. No chance. So he's come through, and the medium's laughing. I said, I'm so sorry to laugh here, but your dad's laughing because he used to say that this doesn't happen when you pass. He says, and I'm laughing because he's saying, I'm here now. We laughed and we joked, and he said, you're going away on a trip, aren't you? Soon to America. I was going to America the week after. Oh, I'm coming with you. And then my mum came through another time. So this came through. It just gave me more self belief and comfort for our loved ones that they are still here. We just can't always see or hear them. This spiritual way of thinking isn't something new since the 70s and John Lennon and flower power. It was here thousands of years ago. You might have heard of the Stoics. The Stoics goes back to ancient Greece of before Christ was born, about 2,300 years ago. And then it was carried on with a famous Roman emperor called Marcus Aurelius. There's a great guy that talks about Stoic stuff on a podcast. I'll try and find the name. And what they talk about is just this different way of thinking, that there's something more going on to life than just what we live second by second. There's a lot more going on that we don't know about that we can tap into. Life's very much like a computer game. You're on level 1, level 2, it's difficult, you get through, you're on level 3. You might get to level 97 and it's still difficult, but it's because you're growing. You want to grow. People might say to me, okay, Paul, but you're this and you're that, you're spiritual and different way of thinking, but you still have bad days and difficult moments. Of course I do, because I'm growing. I'm growing through different levels, and I'm the type of person that wants to grow because I feel it's part of our purpose of life is to grow. Do we want to listen to the same things, hang around with the same people, do the same hobbies, have the same passions all our life? Yes, to some of them. But do you not want to understand and stimulate yourself with different things? Fulfill yourself, water yourself internally with different things. That for me is the meaning of life. And one of the big meanings is self-development and growing to be the best person you can be, to find your voice, to find your purpose. You might not even know what your purpose is, but if you dig hard enough for it and you close your mind off and you try different things and speak to different types of people, you might just find it along the way. And the other purpose in life is being nice to others. Sounds so obvious, and we're all nice to people occasionally, but a lot of the time it's me, and nobody gets me, and that's true because only we walk in our shoes. But I tell you what, our lives are so much better than most people out there that would love our worst day. So go out of our way to reach out to people and be kind and check in how you're doing and try and support, and don't be a know-it-all. Don't prejudge. Don't let your ego think you're something that you're not, because we all know things. But what about the things that we don't know, that other people know? I've got a friend called Richard who isn't necessarily materialistic wealthy, but he is one of the wealthiest, smartest, most loveliest, loving people I know, because he's got gratitude, he's got inner peace, and he cares for others. That for me is success in life. That's more important than success of life of the house, the car, the money, which nothing wrong with being ambitious. But don't put our lives on hold and don't put so much meaning on it until we reach it. So for me, that's pretty much about this spiritual journey I've been on. Put in the comments what you think. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to help anybody I can with what I know. I don't know all the answers. I ain't no guru. I'm just making this up and learning as I go along, but I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated about this journey, and I feel that I'm a much, much happier, better, content, good person in the world now than before I started leading on this path of self-discovery. As well as music that I now listen to that talks to my soul. I'll share all of these things on screen as well, but there's a band called Mercy Me in America, and there's a song that's called I Can Only Imagine. That's when you get wherever you're going. It talks to me. There's a movie I must have watched 7 or 8 times in the last 3 years called Cloud Atlas. It talks deeply to my soul. There's a podcast called I Am with Johnny Wilkinson. It's another brilliant one to get involved. Audiobooks. There's a really deep one called Man's Search for Meaning. It's a Holocaust survivor who talks all about how you can take control of your mind. There's one I'm listening to at the minute called The Power of Now. Again, it talks about the ego mind and connecting with your soul. I know it sounds crazy. Another guy I got a shout out, a guy called Bruce Parry. I've been watching his stuff for years. He's like a travel explorer, but he's very spiritual, and he stays with the indigenous tribes all over the world. So the people that were there before the invaders, all the white people went there and nicked everything. And he's done all of these plant medicines as well. So there's so many different things that have helped me. And I can't remember if I mentioned before, but just after my mum passed away, I'd go and visit her, and there'd always be a magpie there. Was it any coincidence? Was it a message? And recently, over the last couple of years, I always see a white butterfly, and I get a little message, that's my mum. And now it's magpies with my dad and stuff. But there's too many coincidences that can happen. It could be you were just thinking of somebody and somebody rang. How did you know? Or you ring somebody and, oh, I'm glad you rang. So there's so many little things where I believe little angels whisper things in our ears and guide us to do something or to prompt us for an opportunity. Or a song comes on the radio. I'm just thinking of that song. Things move in my house. I mean, I'm always losing my keys having ADHD, but my keys will move, then they'll be back where they were. How? Then the other, last year, a sink stopper, a plug that goes in the bath. One morning I've got up and this plug was in the hallway. How's it got there? There's only me in the house. How's it got there? So I believe the spirit world plays with us to let us know that they're there, having a bit of fun, but just to remind us that there's a bigger picture going on than what we might know, and take faith from that, take comfort from that, take belief in that, and don't take life too seriously. We'd only get to the end of our lives and have a whole list of regrets of things that we never did because we couldn't be bothered, or we were worried about what people are going to think about us. It's only going to be you looking at you. And I think when we acknowledge that what mortality is, that we ain't all going to live forever. You can run from it, but it's going to catch you. That's when you can start living truly. Make the most of it. Understand what's most important. You know, you might be scared to get your hair cut. You might be scared to wear certain clothes. You might be scared to leave your job or leave a relationship or move to another city or another country or go and do a different hobby that you want to do or create new friends. There's so many things that we're worried about what people might think. I care what people think. But on the other hand, I ain't bothered what the wrong people think, because you can never please everybody in this world. If you spend your life doing that and saying yes to everything, when are you all going to do the stuff that's truly for you, that's going to make you become a happier, better version of you? So a lot to take in. I'm still working it out. And thank you so much for joining me on Life with Paul M. Please let me know in the comments what you think. Give me a like, because this will really help me grow the channel and reach people who maybe just need to hear that right message at the right time. Please subscribe so you get all my videos that come through. And thank you so much for all your love and support with this channel. And remember, be kind to other people. It's one of our purposes. We don't know it all. You don't know it all. I don't know it all. Let's not pretend that we do. Let's not judge. Let's be kind to others. Check in on people and see how they are, because you might just make a massive difference to somebody's day. Thank you from me. Namaste. Have a great day.